maybe feels like you're hitting on that, but this other thing doesn't. So that key piece right there is kind of something that I've fallen into that has helped me so much, because it'll also do something where if you're at the 11th hour and you're scrambling through all this stuff, what can happen sometimes is a client or a process will end up bringing in somebody else at the end of the line and say, hey, we actually need this approval from Bill over on this side of the company that you've never heard of before and was never in this process through the whole thing, but Bill really needs to see this. And you're like, oh God, here we go. Bill is going to tear this thing to pieces. If someone like that comes in at the last minute and you have these 3 to 5 words and you can say, hey, backing up, this is kind of how we've looked at this project. These are the things that we're basing this off of. You can bring that person up to speed so much more quickly than if you needed to sift through hundreds of emails and like explain all this stuff. It's just like, does it hit these 3 to 5 words? This is what we're doing. How does that feel to you? It just helps that whole process, because if you have to bring someone up to speed at the end of a project like that, it can go south very, very quickly. And this is another way to kind of just help keep people a little more on track, so that if they're second guessing, it's like, nope, everyone agrees. This is how it's feeling. It's all working. These were the guidelines the whole time. We're all good. Approvals again. All right, move on. So that's that one. Another question that I will usually ask following this, and I kind of have a decent example of this here, was recently I was working on doing a more branded campaign for a whiskey distillery. And what was interesting is they were targeting kind of like these almost newer millennial, like connected people, and trying to get more like forward thinking people into this distillery and into their kind of in-person events. But what was interesting is, as they were explaining a lot of this process to me, they were saying that a lot of the people that they saw show up were not this demographic whatsoever. It was like, hey, we're trying to target people that are a little bit younger and are more connected and are more social. We're trying to target, more women with a lot of this stuff, because traditionally whiskey drinkers in the past have been more masculine and all these things. So I was like, okay, you can either take their word for that up front, or you can start asking more questions. And so when I started digging into it more, it was pretty clear that that is the demo that they were going after and who they wanted to be their client. But the people that were actually coming to the events and interacting with them more was more of that traditional older male whiskey client. And so you can kind of start to explain to them, hey, I know you're trying to push the boundaries a little more, and that's what you're doing here, but we kind of need to pull back on that end a little bit, because your core market is someone that's completely different. So instead of going way far off into this segment of like, let's target all of these people who are more forward thinking, you kind of have to do more of this balancing act between the people that are showing up and also pushing the brand in a way that feels like they're targeting more of those forward